my replay people. I know it's the middle of the day and sometimes it's challenging, but today we have a really cool topic and it's something I've never talked about before, but I think it's really, really important. And that is, are you preparing or procrastinating? That's the topic of today's training. Are you preparing or are you actually procrastinating? I'm going to walk you through this process and we're going to kind of dissect this. Believe it or not, I've got 3 pages of notes I want to go over today because I think this is a really, really important topic. I was reading a book, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the book during our live here, but I was reading a book recently and it reminded me of a key lesson that every entrepreneur needs to learn. And this is not just specifically relevant to the freight or the logistics industry. This is an entrepreneurial lesson as a whole. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. So welcome for joining me. Thank you everybody for joining me live or catching this on replay. Hit me up in the chat box with the city and state that you're logging in from. Maybe I'll give a few shout outs. Okay. We'll do a few shout outs. I am going to do a giveaway today. I'm going to give away another shirt. We're going to do the giveaway. Bear with me for a minute. Let's do a few shout outs first, and then we'll talk about the giveaway. Then we're going to do the training, and then we're going to do a live Q&A, okay, at the end. So for those of you that stick around to the end, we will do a live Q&A. So let's do some shout outs really quick. We got Alvaro Flores from El Paso, Texas. We got Maxwell Perry from Dallas. We got Paul Spates from Frisco. Man, Texas is in the house. The first 3 people are all from Texas. Kudos to you guys. Douglas Lewis from Atlanta, Georgia. Welcome. Mark Latham from South Florida. Shantaneva, welcome. Val from Santa Clarita, California. Cindy Kane, of course, always here. Welcome from Houston, Texas. Miguel, we scrolled up there. Sorry about that. Miguel Nunez from New Jersey. Daniel Ordays from Ontario. Julianka Jackson from Memphis. Tony from Wichita, Kansas. We got Budalaziz from Houston. We've got Army Co from Green Cove Springs, Florida. We got Jas Sandhu from Toronto. So now we got the US and Canada in the house, which is not uncommon. Welcome from Canada, everybody from Canada. Corey Miller from Grove, Utah. Mahogany from New Haven, Connecticut. David Sapita from St. Paul, Minnesota. Dwayne Colbert from Villarica, Florida. Lots of people from Florida and Texas. Welcome from Grand Rapids, Michigan. Michael Hohenberger from Denver, Colorado. Welcome. Mo Knows Best from Conyers, Georgia. I used to have a client in Conyers years ago. I can't remember their name. I think it was, I can't remember what it was. It might have been a recycling business. Shantaneva from Glen Burnie, Maryland. Noni Greenwood from Calumet, Illinois. Daniel Sanchez from Homestead, Florida. Welcome. Lots of new names in here. I love to see it. JT. We got a lot of people in the house. Listen, thank you for joining me. If I didn't get a chance to give you a shout out, I apologize. Come back next week. I'll try again. If you, today we are going to talk about, for those of you that are just joining me, are you preparing or procrastinating? This is what we're going to talk about today. This is a super important topic. If you don't think this is important, you have definitely missed the mark. This is critically important as an entrepreneur. This is a lesson you have to learn. So this is what we're going to talk about today. But before we do that, I'm going to share with you how to do the giveaway. I'm going to give away one of these shirts. It's called Freightpreneur, someone who solves problems you don't know you have in ways you can't understand. This has been a favorite of the audience for a long time now. I give these away almost every week. So one of you in the United States, you have to be US based. I'm sorry, I can't ship this all over the world, is going to win this shirt. So here's all you have to do in order to qualify for the giveaway. Okay. I'm going to give one of these shirts away. All you have to do is share the stream, like this stream, whether you're on YouTube or you're on Facebook or wherever you're at, like the stream and then hit share. Now you got to share it with your network on Facebook, on YouTube, on Instagram, on Pinterest, somewhere. Share it on social media. Share it with somebody, okay? And after you share it, come back in here into the comments, right? And hit hashtag shared. Hashtag shared. That lets me know you shared it. Now, this is an honor system, okay? So I'm trusting you that you're going to be honorable and you're actually going to share it. And my goal here is to simply spread the word about these free live trainings that I do every week on Mondays. I've been doing these for over a year now straight. And, the audience has been amazing. The feedback has been amazing. I'm very blessed and super excited to help you guys. And today, again, we're going to talk about, are you preparing or procrastinating? And this, it can impact you in every stage of your business. So for those of you that are just looking to get started, this is going to be important. For those of you that have already gotten started, this can also be very important. Okay, so stick with me here. I'm going to wait for you guys to respond with the hashtag shared. Let me know how many people have actually shared this. Again, thank you, Dyer Expeditors, for sharing. Binnicole from, welcome, Binnicole. What do we got? We got Raina $1 Billion Robinson shared it. Ben Leppert shared it. Liz Cope shared it. We got Michael Hohenberg shared it. David Sapita shared it. Corey Miller shared it. Awesome, guys. Welcome. Javier Pena shared it. Mark Latham shared it. Now, again, you can share this anywhere. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Send an email to 3 people with the link. I don't care how you do it, but share the stream. Let people know. I truly appreciate it. The more you share it, the more people we can help. Okay. All right, guys. So we are going to give this shirt away right after the training. So I'm going to complete the training. I got 3 pages of notes to get over today. So I want to dive into it. Okay. We're going to do the training. And then right after the training, I'm going to give away the shirt. And then you have to be live, just so you know, you have to be live in order to get qualified for the shirt. And then I'm going to do live Q&A. For those of you that have questions, you'll be able to enter them into the chat box, and I will do my absolute best to answer your questions or point you in the right direction. Okay. All right. Awesome. So here we go, guys. The topic for today is, are you preparing or are you procrastinating? Now, some people have a hard time distinguishing between the two, but I see this all the time. People are focused on perfection over progress. Listen to that. They're focused on perfection over progress, right? They're looking for the perfect training program. They're looking for the perfect company name and the perfect logo and the perfect website and the perfect business card and the perfect sales script and the perfect niche and the perfect software and the perfect lead list. They're looking for everything to be perfect. They're looking for the perfect timing. But let me break the news to you. Perfection is the enemy of progress. You have to grasp that. This is a key lesson that you have to understand as an entrepreneur. Perfection is the enemy of progress. Okay. So I recently read a book called Atomic Habits. Highly recommend the book. It's by James Clear. It's a short book. I did the audio book. I'm going to buy the physical book too. I'm not quite finished with it, but it's a great book. I started it last week and it reminded me of this key lesson, right? And the lesson is the difference between action and motion. The difference between action and motion. Now, let me explain to you. Motion is when you're in the planning and the researching and the strategy mode, right? This is important. Don't get me wrong. But sometimes, the reality is, not sometimes, motion does not produce results. Motion never produces results. It only produces more motion, right? The only thing that can produce results is action, because actions deliver results. So you have to take action on something. So the motion that you're doing, you eventually have to take action in order to see some sort of results. But it's easy to get lulled into a sense of accomplishment by staying in motion and never actually taking action, because you're working off this to-do list and you're checking the to-do list and you feel like you're making progress. You feel like you're actually moving forward. But the reality is motion is never going to get you to your goal. You have to take action. Okay. So understand something. The key to success is not motion, it's action. So let me give you a couple of examples of what I mean. So there are some of you in this audience, that have been thinking about becoming a freight broker or a freight agent for a while now. And you've been researching online the perfect freight broker training program. right? And you keep analyzing which one is the best, right? Which one is the top. But you're still in motion mode. You're still in going through the motions of researching. You're not, and you haven't taken action yet. And you haven't really committed to a program. So that describes some of you here in the audience, right? The other example is maybe you've selected a training program, and maybe you've even completed the training program. And now you're spending all your time designing your logo and getting your business cards printed and setting up your website and all these other motion related actions, or things on your to-do list, not actions, right? And you're not actually committing to taking action. And the ultimate action you have to take in order to grow a successful freight brokerage is you actually have to start making phone calls to shippers. You actually got to pick up the phone and you got to start making phone calls. You got to start sending emails. You got to start doing rate quotes. These are the actions that are going to produce the results of actually generating revenue and profit for your business. But many of you are still in that motion mode. And what's happening is you're using this motion as a way to procrastinate because you feel like you're accomplishing something by going through this to-do list. But when none of these are truly moving you to the end result, closer to your goal, it's not action, it's motion. And I don't want to confuse you, but I want you to understand. I understand the reason why you fail to commit. And the biggest reason why you fail to commit to a training program or to picking up the phone and start making calls is fear. It's based on fear. I get it. Okay, I get it. It's fear of making a mistake. It's fear of what other people might think about you. It's fear of failure. Right? I get it. It's scary changing careers, right? It's scary burning the boats and going all in. It is. I've been there. I've done it more times than I can count. Okay. But there's a reason why the old saying is ready, aim, fire. Okay. It's not ready, aim, ready, aim, ready, aim, right? It's ready, aim, fire, because eventually you have to fire in order to hit the target. And that's the difference between motion and action. Okay, that's what I want you to understand, right? So, matter of fact, there's a whole group of people that subscribe to a slightly different theory, and that is ready, fire, aim. And there's a popular book by that title as well. And the lesson here and the theory behind this is that if you want to hit a goal quickly, you have to act first and then make the necessary adjustments later. And I subscribe to that. I believe that a certain amount of preparation is good, but eventually you have to take action. And if you want to hit your goals quickly and you want to move towards your goals rapidly, you've got to, I would much prefer over ready, aim, or even ready, aim, fire, ready, fire, aim. I think that that's a powerful strategy because you're going to have to make adjustments later anyway. The quicker you take action and the quicker you fire, the quicker you can adjust and the quicker you can get to your goals. Okay, so humor me for 1 second because I want to walk you through a quick exercise. Okay, so I've been doing archery for over 40 years. Okay. Since I was probably 10 years old, I've been shooting archery. So I've been shooting a bow. So the exercise I want to walk you through really quick here is I want you to either physically stand up and do this or just mentally think this through. I want you to draw a bow, like a bow and arrow, right? So this is my bow. This is my arrow. I've drawn the bow, right? And try to aim exactly on the bullseye. I want you to think about it. I want you to try to aim exactly on the bullseye. But you have to understand there are a lot of variables, right? And those variables include wind and distance and your breathing and your heart rate and a whole bunch of other things, okay? Now, you have two choices at this point. You've got the bow drawn and you're on the target. The next time your sight hits the bullseye, you fire and release the arrow. And the arrow hits where it's going to hit. Sometimes it's going to hit right on the dead center bullseye. Sometimes it's going to be a little bit off center. Sometimes you're going to miss the target, okay? Or the other option is you can keep holding the arrow and eventually you're going to get tired and you're going to start becoming more erratic, okay? And then you have to let down your draw, okay, without firing the arrow. And so here's what I want to share with you. This is two arrows that have almost been combined into one arrow, because this first arrow I shot at the bullseye and I hit the target. And then the next arrow I shot went directly into the end of the other arrow. You can see this is what's called a Robin Hood. Okay. A Robin Hood is when you shoot one arrow into the end of another arrow. Okay. Now I want you to understand something. I explained to you earlier that I've been shooting bow and archery for 40 years. Now, in 40 years, this is the only time I've truly ever had a Robin Hood, okay? So this is where I took aim, I hit the bullseye, and then I took aim again right afterwards, and I hit the exact same spot, and it was so precise that it went directly into the arrow. But that took me 40 years to do, okay? And so how does this relate back to becoming a successful freight broker or a freight agent? Again, there are some of you tuning into this video right now, that are thinking about becoming a freight broker or a freight agent, but you have yet to really commit and get trained the right way on how to start a freight broker business. And then there's a second group of you that have already went through training or bought the training or maybe even completed the training. And maybe, and you're waiting for everything to be perfect before you get started, before you actually take action towards your goals, okay? The important actions that are going to get you there. The fact is, both groups are still in motion. And so what I want you to understand, the lesson here is don't allow perfectionism to get in the way of your dreams. You have to remind yourself that action, not motion, is what generates success, okay? So the fact is, when you remain in the planning and learning stage of your career, if you're not aware and you're not careful, you could stay there, tricking yourself into thinking you're making progress, when in reality, you're preventing progress. To get better at anything, you eventually need to just do it. Like Nike says, just do it and learn from the outcome of the doing. Okay, so always remember, number one, motion without action will never find success. And that perfection is the enemy of progress. So I hope you guys can internalize that. I hope that helps you, because it's an important topic for every entrepreneur. Okay, so just as a segue here, if you guys are curious, if you're on this live or you're catching this on replay or wherever you're catching this, if you're curious about becoming a freight broker or freight agent and you're ready to take action, check out freightbrokerbootcamp.com. We're well known to we're the most cost-effective and comprehensive online freight broker training available online today. Been in business over a decade, trained over 8,000 students, and we offer a 60-day, 100% money-back guarantee. So now that you guys have gotten the lesson here, okay, and we've talked about that, I want you to internalize that. We're going to do some Q&A in a minute, but now I'm going to give away the t-shirt, okay? So anybody that's joined in the meantime, if you want a chance to win this t-shirt, it says Freightpreneur, someone who solves problems you don't know you have in ways you can't understand. I'm going to give away one of these t-shirts. You have to be in the US. I will ship it out to you. All you have to do is share the stream. Like the stream on Facebook or YouTube or wherever you're at, and then share the stream. Share it on social. Share it somewhere. It's an honor system. And then come back in here, and in the comments, I want you to type #shared, okay? Come into the comments and type #shared. And then I'm going to pick one winner this week who's going to get this shirt, okay? I'm going to mail it out to you. I'm going to ship it out to you this week. And then we'll go from there, okay? And then I'm going to do Q&A. So stick around if you've got questions, or whether it be about this training or other trainings, becoming a freight broker, becoming a freight agent, whatever it is you have questions about, whether you're a student or you just stumbled across this live, whatever the case may be, I'm going to do some live Q&A in just a few minutes. So hashtag shared. After you share the stream, you got to like. First, you got to like this. You got to smash that like button. Then you got to share it. Okay. This is an honor system. I'm counting on you to be honorable. Okay. I'm very honorable. I will make sure that I send this shirt out. Everybody's gotten their shirt. I've mailed out everybody's shirt that I've given, that I've offered to give this away to that have won this. And so in about 60 seconds, I'm going to give away the shirt and then we're going to dive into Q&A. In the meantime, I'm going to grab a quick drink because when I talk fast with all these lights on me, I sweat and get out of breath and I need a drink. So there's a quick drink, and in 30 seconds, I'm going to give away the shirt. So make sure you are liking the stream and sharing it, and I'm going to be giving it away. I see a whole bunch of people that are actually sharing it. That's amazing. Well done. I'm going to pick one winner. Now, understand something. You can only win once, okay? Sorry about the news, but you can only win once. We got to be fair. I've seen people that have, week after week, some people have won and they continue to participate. I truly appreciate you sharing the stream as long as you're okay with not winning again, because again, I want to spread the wealth and let everybody get a chance to win the shirt. So, all right, so let's do this. Let's give it away here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll through the feed with my eyes closed. I'm going to randomly select one person, and that person is going to be the winner, okay? So here we are at the bottom. I'm going to scroll up. All right, and then I'm going to randomly point my mouse, and the winner is the winner is Samuel Markin. I'm sorry, Samuel Markin. All right, so Samuel Markin shared it via WhatsApp. Awesome. I don't know how many people you shared it with. Hopefully you shared it with a bunch. Congratulations. You are the winner of the Freightpreneur t-shirt, okay? Someone who solves problems you don't know you have in ways you can't understand. I will ship that out to you, but all you have to do now is go to the Facebook page, the Freight Broker Bootcamp Facebook page, message me your full name, your complete address with your zip code, and the size, okay? Now, I don't know what sizes I have left. Send me the size that you're looking for, and we're going to try to ship that thing out to you here in the next week, and then you can have one of these Freightpreneur t-shirts that I give away almost every week. So, awesome. Listen, congrats, Samuel Markin, for winning the shirt. Now we're going to dive into Q&A. So if you have questions, if you didn't win this week, come back next week. I promise I'll give away something cool. Last week I gave away a book. The week before I gave away a shirt. Other times I've given away money. I've given away different things throughout these promotions in an effort to get you guys to share the stream and share the wealth and let everybody know what we do over here at Freight Broker Bootcamp. And so let's dive into Q&A. So if you have questions, type them in the chat box. Let's hear it. Let's hear the questions, okay? I can't promise you that I will get to everybody's question today. I will do my best to get through as many as I can. I usually spend about 20 to 30 minutes doing questions. Sometimes it goes longer, but ultimately that's probably what I'll do today. So put some questions in the chat box, whether it be about today's lesson or whatever the case may be, and I'll do my best to try to answer them, okay? All right, so here's a question from Liz Cope. Do you need an LLC or can you do a DBA? It's a really good question. I believe that the FMCSA will allow you to do it either way, but I recommend an LLC or an S Corp or some sort of corporation. And here's why. The reason why you should have a corporation is because it prevents personal liability in the event that something were to go wrong. So it limits your liability to the corporate assets. So let's say, for example, you have a business, which is an entity, and then you have your personal assets. In the event something were to go wrong and someone were to sue you potentially, a corporation insulates your personal assets from that suit. Okay, now I'm not a lawyer and I don't play one on TV, even though I have a pre-law degree. I graduated with pre-law, believe it or not, a long time ago. But I'm not a lawyer. I don't give legal advice, but that's the primary reason why people set up LLCs or S Corps or different corporation structures is tax purposes as well as liability. It limits your personal liability. So I would suggest you set up an LLC or an S Corp. A DBA will not insulate your personal liability because you're acting as a DBA of yourself, okay? Which makes you liable. Okay, so hope that helps. All right, so let's see what we got here. All right, I'm scrolling. Let me get down to the questions here. This whole thing adjusted. Congratulations, Paul. I'm ready to fire, but waiting for the FMC to get their authority. So you filed everything and you're waiting for your authority. Congratulations. All right, scrolling. Congratulations to all of you that have submitted your applications and gotten your bond and are just waiting to get active. Congratulations. All right, so here's a question from Budal Aziz. Does partnering with someone who already has his trucking company to my brokerage cause a conflict of interest? Please help me with that. Does partnering with someone who already has a trucking company to my brokerage? I'm not sure what you mean by partnering. So it would be very hard for me to answer that question. Now, if you mean you're going to become business partners in some sort of a joint venture where you're going to both own equity in the brokerage, okay, and they have a trucking company and you have a brokerage, I don't see that as a conflict of interest unless the brokerage were trying to take business away from the trucking company or somehow, causing harm to the trucking company. But a trucking company and a brokerage can work, a trucking company can own a brokerage and it can work really well as a great avenue to increase profits. Because let's say, for example, a trucking company has 5 trucks, okay? That means at any given time, they can only be moving 5 loads, okay? Because they only got 5 tractors, they only got 5 trucks. So at any point, they can only be moving 5 loads. So that limits their income, that limits their upside, that limits their ability to serve their clients. So if a trucking company added a brokerage division and then the shippers that they were working with wanted them to move for more freight, they could actually broker those loads out to other carriers, make more money, and serve their customer better. So that's the reason why a lot of trucking companies will also set up a brokerage division. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I don't think the way I'm interpreting your question, it would be a conflict of interest. All right, so I'm scrolling down here. Yeah. So I'm scrolling. Okay, so a question from Amadeep Gruel, and that is, how long did it take to get your first customer? I think we moved our first load in our first week or two, right? It was either week 1 or week 2. We moved our first load for our first customer. So, sometimes it'll happen faster. Sometimes it'll happen a little slower. Ultimately, the only thing that really matters is that it happens, right? And that you get that first load under your belt. You get that first customer under your belt. Don't put too much pressure on yourself, right? A lot of these questions come from that fear of failure, of what will people think if I don't get customers the first week. Nobody cares. Matter of fact, nobody's even going to know. Ultimately, you're the one who's going to tell your story later, how it took you weeks or months to get your first customers, but you eventually grew a successful business. So don't let that stand in your way. For me personally, back in 2003, 2004, when I launched my brokerage, it took the first week or 2 to get my first customer. I think our first month we moved 12 loads. I think, if I remember correctly, I think it was 12 loads that first month. So I hope that helps. Not sure I understand this question. Let's see. Mahogany asks, I understand CCI is required by majority of shippers. Okay. Actually, COI, certificate of insurance, I'm assuming you mean. Other than general proof of liability, when just starting out, should you focus on CA and other insurances that you have available to protect brokers? Listen, as a startup, you don't need any insurance. You're not required to have general liability. You're not required to have contingent cargo. You're not required to have any of those insurance. Now, you may choose to get those if you feel it's necessary, but I would not get those insurance policies unless you absolutely needed them, because I believe that having a lean approach to business, I wouldn't have needed any of those insurances in order to get my first client. Okay. But in the event that a shipper requires general liability, set up general liability. It's very inexpensive. In the event that you determine that a shipper is worth getting contingent cargo for, and that they're going to help subsidize the cost of that contingent cargo by giving you freight, and then you can leverage that to get other clients, then go ahead and do that. That might be months or never down the road. I know brokers who don't have contingent cargo insurance right now and run successful brokerages, right? And so my suggestion to you, and the reason why I don't say get this up front, is because, again, why spend that money if you don't need it? You will be able to get shippers that don't require particularly contingent cargo insurance. Some of them may require general liability, so that would be more likely. But general liability is really inexpensive. So I would say if you're going to get insurance up front, get general liability, but wait on the contingent cargo until you identify a shipper or an opportunity as viable enough that it can really help subsidize the cost of that contingent cargo insurance. Because while it's not super expensive, it can get relatively expensive for a startup. Okay. So I hope that helps, Mahogany. I hope that answers your question. Oh, geez, this thing keeps scrolling. Sorry. All right, let's see. Okay, so Michael Burns asked, looking to purchase Freight Broker Bootcamp, would my wife and I both be able to access the training? Because you are husband and wife and you are partners in the business, the answer is yes. But anybody who is not husband, wife, or a partner in the business, you need to purchase a separate login. Any employees, any salespeople, any agents, any operations people, anybody who's an employee other than you as a partner, okay, needs to purchase their own license. Now, we have software on the back end that monitors IP addresses and monitors how people are logging in and the frequency. And if you get flagged because they think it's fraudulent, well, then your account might get shut off. Now, if it's an accident, we can always turn that back on. It's no problem. But ultimately, yeah, we do have software that monitors it on the back end. So if you're a partner, yes, no problem. You and your wife can share an account because you're partners, but any employees or anybody after that is going to have to purchase their own account. Okay? So I hope that helps. Okay, so here's a question from T. Watkins. How do you use LinkedIn to get more customers? All right, so I can't give you a full training on how to use LinkedIn to get customers. So I'm going to give you kind of a 50,000-foot view. Number one, what is LinkedIn? LinkedIn is the world's largest professional networking site. It's kind of like Facebook for businesses, but it's much more powerful than Facebook when you're selling a service, a B2B service, when you're selling to a business, because everybody who's on LinkedIn is either working for a business or is an entrepreneur. Okay. So when you go on LinkedIn, number one, you got to set up your profile. You got to customize your profile to represent and make a good first impression. It shouldn't look like a resume. It should look more like a professional bio. Okay. That's something that's designed specifically to attract your target market. That's number one. Optimize your profile. Number two, you can use the free search built within LinkedIn to identify your target markets, whether that be in a specific industry or specific title. Let's say, for example, you search for shipping managers or logistics managers or transportation manager or warehouse manager. Whatever the case may be, you are going to get a list of people that have LinkedIn profiles that you can then do a little bit of research on their profile, and you can send a custom connection request to start a dialogue. Your goal is to get connected and to start a dialogue and to develop a relationship you could then convert offline into a phone conversation where you can then, that may be evolve into some freight quotes and some additional information, and then eventually maybe even into a customer. So it would work very similar to, very similar to a cold call, but using through LinkedIn. It would work very similar to a cold email, but going through LinkedIn. So you're using social media as a medium to find, connect, and engage with your target market. Okay, so at a high level, that's how you use LinkedIn, okay, to start a conversation with your target market. Okay, so I hope that helps. Okay, so Kevin James, how do you do a rate quote when you don't have a TMS software as a beginner? You don't need a TMS software. First of all, a TMS is a transportation management system or transportation management software. It's the software that allows you to manage all your customer load data and all your carrier data and and all that data, right? So it's a workflow that allows you to manage those loads and manage those relationships. But it really doesn't, most of them don't do freight quotes for you. As a matter of fact, there's no software out there that really does accurate freight quotes for you. So the best source of information today for doing a freight quote is to understand exactly what it's going to cost you from point A to point B to hire a truck. So let's use an example. Boston to Chicago, it's a van load, a 53-foot van load of widgets from Boston to Chicago. So let's say that's around 800 miles roughly. So the best way for me to quote that to my shipper is to, number one, check out, whatever rating software is available on your, on your load boards, whether that be the DAT or whether that be TruckStop or some other rating software that you have. Maybe it is built into your TMS, but in most cases, that's not where you're going to find it. And then get a sense as to what that rating data says. Now, you're going to use that as a baseline, but you're not going to build your quote off of that. You're then going to look on the load boards, and you're going to either look for trucks that are posted in that lane and you're going to call them, or you're going to look for what's called the lane history, which is where you can find trucks that have been posted between vans that have been posted between Boston and Chicago over the last 30, 60, 90 days. And then you are going to call those carriers. And when you call up that carrier, what you're not going to do is you're going to say, hey, how much do you charge from Boston to Chicago? Because you may get an inflated rate at that point, right? Because you're asking that question. And so they're going to probably start high. My suggestion to you would be to use some of that rating data that you've gathered. And what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to start a little low. So if the rating data said that you'd pay a truck $1,000, just hypothetical, these aren't real numbers, just a hypothetical, right? If the rating data said that you should be paying a truck $1,000 from Boston to Chicago for 800 miles, then I would probably start a little bit lower. I might start at $900 and see what they say. And they will then adjust their rate and they'll say, well, I couldn't touch that for less than $1,100. Okay. And then you get a sense as to what their real cost basis is to hire a truck. Now, if you call 5 or 10 trucking companies and you get that baseline of what that cost is, and it all comes in between, $1,000 and $1,100, you now have a pretty good idea of what it's going to cost for you to hire a truck from Boston to Chicago. Now you can base your rate on that. Now, if you determine the cost is $1,100, you're probably going to mark that up maybe $100 or $200, and then you're going to provide that quote to your shipper. So if your cost basis is $1,100 and you're going to add $200 in margins, you're then going to quote the shipper at $1,300 or maybe $1,295 or whatever the case may be. And that's how you will get an accurate freight quote. Software is rarely going to be the most accurate. It's a baseline. It helps you to determine rates. But in a volatile market like we have right now, which is a great time to start a business, okay, you want some volatility. Otherwise, people don't make changes. In a volatile market, when rates are going up and down based on supply and demand and seasonality and the backup of product in the Suez Canal and the backup of product overseas and importing due to COVID and all the things that are going on to disrupt the supply chain right now, it's great to take advantage of that. But those rates in those rating tools are going to show a lot of volatility. They're sometimes not going to be as accurate as you'd like. Now, when the market is not real volatile, those rates are more stable. Those rating tools are going to be a lot more precise, but you still need to contact carriers to try to validate those rates to ensure that you're giving an accurate quote, at least until you're used to running Boston to Chicago on a regular basis and you know what the trucks cost because you're moving those loads every day or every week. Okay. So I hope that helps. Good question, Kevin. And I hope that helps everybody else. I get that question all the time. Not that exact question, but how to create accurate rate quotes. All right, so I'm scrolling. Okay, so here's a question from Ivan Sedano. I'm currently a student in your program. My question is, my husband has a trucking company and LLC, and I'm wondering if perhaps there's a way for him to add me to his business and add the brokerage to it. And if so, how would we be able to do it? And would this save me money on starting out process? Okay, so Ivan, I'm not here to give you tax advice or legal advice, but there are pros and cons to an LLC owning both a brokerage and a carrier entity. The pros are you can save a little bit of money on the LLC in the formation, right? Because all you're really saving is on the LLC. You're still going to have to file an application. It's still going to cost you the same amount of money to get your broker authority. You save a little bit of money on having if you had to set up a different LLC. The disadvantage is that what I've heard, and I'm not a carrier, okay? The disadvantage that I've heard is that your insurance premiums on the carrier side go up when you are also a broker under the same corporation. Now, other people may validate that, but that's what I've heard for many years. So a lot of companies will have their carrier under one LLC and they'll have their brokerage under a different LLC because it won't affect their carrier insurance because that's obviously a significant cost for you as a carrier. Now, again, I'm not here to give legal advice and I'm not an accountant. But I want you to understand that that's what I've heard from carriers that have inquired about setting up a brokerage division under their current LLC is that it was going to affect their insurance premiums. So they set up another entity and then they went through and got the brokerage set up under that. So I hope that helps. Good question. Thanks. Okay, so here's a question from Marcus. Do you have to have good credit to get a $75,000 bond? No, you don't have to have good credit to get a $75,000 bond, but you have to have good credit in order to get a less expensive bond. So the $75,000 bond, just so you know, is like it's kind of like an insurance product or an insurance policy in a way. You're not giving $75,000. You're paying a premium like an insurance premium. So how they determine what your annual premium is on your bond is heavily predicated on your personal credit. So if you have really good credit, like an 800 credit score, you're going to pay the absolute lowest for that bond, probably in the range of, maybe as low as $1,000 or $1,000 to $1,500, right? Very inexpensive if you got really good credit. Now, if your credit is average, you're going to pay a little bit more. If your credit is slightly below average, you might get underwritten, but you might have to pay more. Now, if you have really bad credit, you're probably not going to get approved for a freight broker bond, which is okay. Either way, whether you have good credit or you have average credit or you have bad credit, if you're not ready to become a freight broker and get your own freight broker authority, it's very viable to become a freight agent where you are still an independent contractor, you are still an entrepreneur, but you are partnering with a licensed freight brokerage and you're working under them. It's a great way to get started. I like when people get started as a freight agent, and here's why. Because less startup, less risk. And I always say this, if you can't make money as a freight agent, you're not going to make money as a freight broker because the freight broker just has a few more balls to juggle. It's a little bit harder. And again, there's a little bit more risk, a little bit more capital. As a freight agent, my average freight agent, our last year in business, did over $107,000 in commission in their pocket. Top agents made over $500,000 a year. And so ultimately, becoming an agent can be highly profitable. Now, I'm not here to promise you $100,000 a year or $500,000 or $10 for that matter. That's not my choice. We teach you how to do it. You've got to go out and do it. And experiences may vary, okay? Results may vary. But ultimately, becoming a freight agent to start, if you don't have good credit, is not a bad thing. It's a great option, and I would strongly suggest. Matter of fact, I have a lot of past students and relationships that I've built over the years with freight agents who would never want to open their own brokerage because they make a lot of money and they don't have to worry about all the financial management and the technology and the insurance and all the risk and all that. They just serve their customers, make a ton of money, and they go from there. Monica Gonzalez is a perfect example of that. I interviewed her not long ago. She's a friend and a past student of mine. She used to actually work for my brokerage as an agent and is an agent now and, earns over $300,000 a year in profit in her pocket as an agent, right? Is living her dream, bought a ranch, has helped her family, has done all kinds of great things with the proceeds, kind of living her dream, right? Ultimately, because I know she's had that dream for a long time to have a ranch down in Texas. And so she's been able to do that as an agent. She's now doesn't have any interest in becoming a freight broker. She's just an agent because she realizes the risk on the other side and all the variables on the other side may not be worth it for her at this stage in her career. So I hope that helps. So the long answer short here is no, you don't need good credit to get a bond, but the better your credit is, the lower the cost of your bond will be. Deepak, I don't think I understand. How do you keep tabs on cheating drivers? I don't understand. Unless you're married to the driver, I don't understand what you mean by cheating. All right, so I'm scrolling. Let me get another question here. Okay, so Tiffany Mitchell asks, as a broker, when you live in a small town in an area and there aren't any shippers in your area, how do you get shippers to trust you, trust that you can help them in their area? Okay, well, first, let me break the news to you. As a broker, I did over $200 million in sales during my career. $200 million. That's a lot. Okay, it's a lot of loads. It's a lot of shippers. It's a lot of customers. Okay. And I would tell you that in my vicinity, in my geography, in my general area, less than 5% of all the freight we ever moved during my entire career was local to me. Very small percentage. So it's not uncommon for brokers to be located somewhere else when they're doing business with a shipper. It's very common. Okay. So you don't need to be local to do business with a shipper. Now, can it help? It might if you have some connections in common, or you're able to use that as a trust factor, or you're able to visit them. But I would tell you that in the $200 million that we did as a brokerage and all the thousands of clients that we worked with over the years, I never met more than a few hundred of them face to face. Most of them were long distance, over the phone, over the internet, via email type relationships. So the way you build trust with a remote client is the same way as you build trust with a local client, other than the physicality of being able to go to their office. You build trust by demonstrating your expertise. You build trust by doing what you say you're going to do. You build trust by leveraging social proof and relationships, common relationships that you have. You build trust by being the most educated about your customer and about your target market and about your niche. Those are ways that you build trust. So your locality or your geography doesn't really matter. If you happen to be focusing on local and you can do face-to-face, great. But that's more of a rarity than it is the norm. Okay, so I hope that helps, Tiffany. So Verlene Chapman Broomfield asks a question. When searching for training, should it be focused on overall freight broker process, not a part of the process? That depends on where you are in your stage. If you are brand new and you have no experience in the industry, I would focus on the overall, because you need a product like Freight Broker Bootcamp that gives you an overall view of the entire industry and how you fit into it and how to make money and build the business with it. If you are an established freight broker or a freight agent, you've already got a business with some customers, you probably aren't going to do a startup training like that. You're probably going to be focused a little bit more in on sales or marketing or, different growth strategies, particularly sales, right? So, and that's a reason why I already launched a program called Freight Broker Sales Accelerator. This is typically for people that already have a business and they're looking for a very sales intensive training that's going to help them to accelerate getting new customers. And so I launched that a while ago. The reviews have been amazing. Matter of fact, we got a 9.7 out of 10 score from the people that have taken that course. And so I'm going to be releasing that again starting in June. I don't have the exact date yet, but I'm going to open enrollment in June for that. So if you guys are curious about that program, it's a paid program. Again, I don't have all the details yet, but it is a paid program. It's not cheap. But if you want to get on the waiting list for that, so you get notified right away, here's all you have to do. Go to freightbrokerbootcamp.com/FB sales. Okay. freightbrokerbootcamp.com/FB sales. And you can get on the wait list. And then when I do open it up, you'll get notified. You'll get notified. You'll be one of the first to know, and you can get enrolled in that. Again, I'm not sure exactly how many people I'm going to let in that. The last time I let 50, I said I was going to let 50 people in, and in less than a day, I sold that was all totally full. So I opened up a few more spots and we enrolled 58 people. I'm not sure exactly how many I'm going to enroll, but I have hundreds of people on the wait list, but you'll get a fair shake at it. So if you're looking for beginner type training and you just need to get the ball rolling, then Freight Broker Bootcamp is definitely a good tool for you. Again, we've got, a 60-day, 100% money back guarantee, been in business over a decade, trained over 8,000 brokers and agents. And many of them have went on to grow 6- and 7-figure businesses. So, but if you're looking for specific sales type training, then you might want to get on that Freight Broker Sales Accelerator waitlist, which is freightbrokerbootcamp.com/FB sales. Okay. Hope that helps. All right. So I'm scrolling. Give me a minute. Yes, Tanisha, after this, you need to go after this. I'll send you a link to it. Okay. So I hope that helps. Okay, so here's a question from Brenda. I have a freight brokerage. My husband has a trucking company, both LLC. When calling on shippers, should I mention that I have available trucks? All right, so if you're calling on a shipper, it's okay if you have assets, if you have trucks, to say that you are an asset-based brokerage, that you do both. But what you have to be clear about is that when they tender you a load, that they understand on this load, you are acting as a carrier or you're acting as a broker, because the liability is totally different. Brokers do not have carrier liability. Broker's liability is to ensure that the carrier has a proper authority and the proper insurance. That's their basic vetting process. And their liability, not exclusively, but pretty much stops there. A carrier accepts liability from the moment they pull up to that dock at picking it up to the moment that they deliver that product. So there's liability that whole way, and they're primarily liable. So it's okay to say that you're an asset-based brokerage if in fact you are. Okay. They're probably going to ask you for both authorities, or you'll include that in your packet to share with them to prove that. But ultimately, you have to, if you're a small carrier and you've got 2 trucks or 5 trucks or 10 trucks, you're going to have limited capacity, and you have to let them know that you will be brokering these loads. You don't want to broker out loads that you're telling them, you don't want to mislead them into believing you're putting that load on your truck when in reality you're brokering it out, because your liability is different and it's not honest. Okay. That's just the way it goes. So there's no problem with saying that you're an asset-based brokerage. I think that can benefit you in some circumstances. It's not required. I definitely, matter of fact, all of the students that I have that I've highlighted as success stories in any of those interview series, none of them own their own trucks. They were just brokers or agents. So hope that helps. All right, guys. So listen, that's going to wrap it up for today. If you're new to this stream, if you're new to this live, this is just a small sample of what you get as a Freight Broker Bootcamp student. Check out freightbrokerbootcamp.com. Again, we have over 8,000 students, been in business over a decade, and we offer a 60-day, 100% money-back guarantee, no questions asked. It's ironclad. If you're not happy for any reason, you can get your money back. I can't make it much easier than that. For those of you that have not subscribed to, or, that haven't, aren't following or subscribed to my YouTube channel, if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you hit the subscribe button now. We'll make sure you get notified of any future lives, as well as any other free training videos that I put out. Same thing goes for Facebook. Make sure that you're following the Freight Broker Bootcamp Facebook page. Big congrats to the gentleman who won the shirt. I can't remember the name, so you got to message me with the name and address and your size, and I will make sure I get that shirt out to you. I hope this helped you guys. Again, remember that, are you preparing or are you procrastinating? The big lessons here are motion without action will never lead to success, and perfection is the enemy of progress. So I hope you guys have an awesome day, have an awesome week, and I'll see you next week.